everyone, my name is Phawx. Around 9 years ago I had ripped the keys off of my keypad on my Epic 4G slider, to which Engadget had called me the Power Mad Modder. Now, if anyone has been following my YouTube channel as of late, I have been looking for a particular price point to have retro handheld emulation. So I had remembered a long time ago that I had done this mod, and I wondered how much was this device still today? And to my surprise I found that it was actually $13 shipped. So I decided to buy it and have it shipped out to me and see how far along the Android development had gone onto this and see what I can actually run on it. Very quickly before we get into that, I just want to point out here that there is still more than 10 available from this seller. The link will be in the description field if you're interested in taking advantage of this cheap price. Alright, so if you are actually looking into making this device yourself and you buy it for $13, this is what I used. You can just use any razor. You could also just rip the keys off yourself. It might be a little bit sloppier with that because you're not going to have as a direct cut with a razor. Later on I did find my X-Acto knife set, which makes it way easier than just using a razor blade like this. Obviously you're going to have to be very, very careful if you're going to use a razor blade like this, so please do be careful. I would almost rather you rip the keys off itself than rather use a razor blade like this. Having said that, you're basically going to construct a D-pad. You can see that initial T series set, and I use that for start select as well as some menu type of buttons like opening up a menu or swapping a screen in the DS emulator. And then you can also see the face buttons like BA, XY, L1, L2, R1, R2. Here I've applied tape to all of the areas that I don't want to show up, and then I'm just going to use a black Sharpie to color in over the tape, and I use this to kind of darken out all those areas just so it kind of highlights the D-pad and the face buttons itself. Later on I actually do use different colored Sharpie and I color over the buttons themselves to give it a better look overall, although it does start rubbing off, and you know, I'll explain later on in the video. I'll show a few demos. I do DS emulation, N64 emulation, as well as showing off how well the buttons actually work using Street Fighter and being able to pull off moves really easily. That's really the surprising part of it, is that the controller actually is fairly decent for what it is. Anyway, without further ado, I'll go ahead and jump into some demos.
Alright, so this is not so much a Super Nintendo test, but it's actually more of just a test of the controller itself, in that you can, even though it looks like it's going to be gross, it's actually really easy to press the buttons that you want to press. So this is just to demonstrate that even though it seems like it would be a really gross D-pad, it's actually fairly usable. And some of the things, so one of the things you can actually do is, instead of ripping off this key like I did right here, you can actually, I actually have two of these. This is an old one that I had, and I need to repair the USB port on this. But you could leave, instead of using the 0 key, you can actually have the P key on there and basically create a Street Fighter-esque layout. So you have 3 buttons and then 3 buttons, so it's going to be a little bit more comfortable to play as that. Anyway, that's just a demonstration that I can actually maneuver this pretty well. Now, one of the things that I do want to say that isn't actually ideal is using this in 3D games to maneuver, because it's a little bit of fatigue. But for like 2D games and having very precise directional input, it's actually super responsive. So let's go ahead and just show you some N64 stuff and kind of let you understand what I mean about that. Alrighty, so this is Mario 64 running on Mupen, what is it? Mupen FZ? Mupen 64 plus FZ. Let's go ahead. Now again, this is one area where, you know, I think I might actually just swap out this. Plus this is getting kind of gross. It would be nice to have actually a custom-made mat for this, which would be pretty cool. But one other thing that would be nice would be to just have the 6-way buttons, because then at least this would be the D-pad, and this would be B and A for the N64 controller, and then the C keys, although C left, down, right. So right now, if you like, this is C right, C up, C left, C down. I mean, I know it's there, but I'm starting to think that the 6-way button method is actually the preferred method. And again, actually on an AMOLED screen, it's sick. It's actually super nice to look at. And again, for $13, for me, this is like a ridiculously good emulation handheld. Anyway, so one of the main reasons that I wanted to kind of show this off to you was that kind of running around in 3D games, it really does force you to constantly press in a specific direction. So it's not as it's far easier to just press directional buttons. There's not a lot of force that's needed. But when you want to use the diagonals, you kind of have to concentrate because the spacing of them is a little bit far. So hitting diagonals for any length of time can be a bit fatiguing. In this particular aspect, it's not the best. It's totally workable. It's not at all bad, especially for the end result. So one of the things that you can do is I map Z down here, so it makes things like this possible. So you can still do the butt stomp. And that's pretty understood. So this is kind of showing off some of like the bigger end games that you're going to be playing. So N64 is possible, Nintendo DS emulation is possible, and then everything under that is quite possible. I'll take a look at some Dreamcast. There's going to be some things that I'm going to do later on in the week as well. But for now, let me just kind of show you the Android side of things, just so you can kind of understand what that's like. And to end this video, I'm just going to kind of walk you through some of the things that you should expect with the Samsung Epic 4G. So it is an AMOLED screen. It is 800 by 480. Try to get up real close and to see it. And you can see that there's no fringe fonts or anything. The whites are very crystal clear. Everything is very nice and kind of crisp. So it's a really nice AMOLED screen. Hopefully, if people actually take a look at this, so this is CyanogenMod 2016 August 15th nightly. We're running 4.4.4. Kernel is no test CMA. It tones down Samsung's color scheme and goes for far more accurate, so your whites are actually very white, and actually playing an emulation, it looks really, really good, as evidenced by what you saw playing. Additionally, if we go into, let's go into here to unlock performance mode. Here we go. So if we go into performance, we can see here that in processor, we're actually overclocking, and there should be an undervolt. So the default clock is 1 gigahertz, but we're actually able to push it to 1.2 gigahertz, which gives us a lot of, especially for DS emulation, it really does help push it over that line of just far more stable frame rates. It's fine at 1 gigahertz as well. As the governor, I do keep it on performance, so that's why it kind of keeps that frequency pegged at 1.2 gigahertz. It really doesn't affect CPU battery life all that much. Standby times are still fine. This is XDA's Explorer, what you will get on XDA's only on available. The APK is only available via XDA. You can get it separately without having to sign in, which is what I like. But with this, you can obviously use Samba. So you can go onto your Samba share. So this is my NAS. You can see it's connecting to that. It's all 73 terabytes of it. Wi-Fi works over this, so you don't have to constantly connect it to USB. You can do all of your transfers over Wi-Fi directly, and I average about 3 megabytes a second. For $13, the display, the 55 hertz thing is unfortunate. I'm hoping that someone that takes a look at this that knows how to kernel hack can actually take a look at it. That'd be amazing. Outside of that, I don't really care. I'm going to show you some other stuff. So actually I have some EPS6 here, and then you also see all these other OID, the Game Boy, Gearoid, Genzoid. I just loaded those up because they were 2.3-ish types of emulators at the time. But obviously RetroArch does work on this, and it has some of the same features that Rubber Bulge's emulators do as well in terms of threaded video and trying to skip late frames for trying to fix 60 hertz in that 55 hertz range. And it does a really good job of correcting not having a full 60 hertz frame, 60 hertz display. Anywho, the phone works just fine. We can actually take a look. One other thing that I can show you is in the settings. When we take a look at, let's do storage. So you can see internal storage. One thing that, while you can install the Google Play Store, I really don't recommend it, because even just installing a lot of emulators, especially RetroArch, it will consume a considerable amount of the small NAND space. Half of it is reserved for the system. The other half is available to install stuff on. So you only have around 500 megs of space to actually install emulators. Now, a good amount of them can be moved over to SD, but not a lot. So it is something that So this is everything that I've disabled on here. These are all apps that I've disabled. And I just recommend disabling them all because they're not really necessary. One thing that I would like to do is kind of remove the sprint service because it's just sucking up RAM for no reason. But you can see that we still have a healthy amount of RAM available to us for obviously for running emulators and games and stuff. So I'm still gonna. This is stuff that you can push to the SD card just to free up more space. Now I have a 128 gig micro SD card in there, so 128 gig cards work just fine. For $13, there is no better retro handheld available that will play as many games, have as nice a screen, and even though the controls look like they are janky, they actually perform very, very well. So throughout the week, I'll be showing some more demos of specific emulators running certain games of just singular emulators. That's it. If you're interested in buying this, I'm going to I have the link for eBay in the description field. That's it. As always, thank you for your time, and thanks for watching.